going on, everyone? Welcome back to AWS On Air. My name's Aaron Hunter. I'm a technical trainer with the AWS Training Certification Team. Today, we're streaming live from the AWS Summit in Washington, D.C. I have my good friend Kyle, who's a co-host. He has a very long title. He'll introduce himself pretty soon. And we're joined with our friend Scott. Kyle, what's your title?
Senior Security Solution Architect with a focus on threat detection and incident response. Boom.
Okay, we're timing it throughout the day. Watch us throughout the day and see if you can get shorter and shorter with that title. And Scott, who are you?
Hi, I'm Scott Beslow. I'm a lead software engineer at Discovery Education.
Awesome. And today we're here to talk about what?
Today we're going to talk about AWS Personalize.
Awesome.
Awesome. So what is AWS Personalize and how does it solve customer problems?
Sure. So AWS Personalize is an out-of-the-box recommendation engine. Basically, you think day-to-day, you go to a website, and whether it be Amazon, let's use Amazon as an example.
That's a good website.
Shows you, when you go to the page, it shows you various things that you might want to see based on what other people are doing, what you've done in the past, and whatnot. And this is basically an out-of-the-box solution for that.
Perfect. So it's almost like maybe when I shop, and then if it has like a recommendation where, hey, someone bought this, and they also bought these other things, you might be interested. That's kind of the same thing with a recommendation engine.
Exactly.
Okay.
Both maybe what things that you've bought in the past, as well as maybe what other people like you. People, your age demographic, your location in the country, whatnot, as well.
I imagine that's also the same for like watching TV shows or movies, but how is Discovery Ed taking advantage of this?
Sure. Basically, we are an organization that shows content. We have a lot of solutions built around content, and we are essentially recommending content to teachers.
Now, not just some teachers, 4.5 million educators.
Yes.
And
45 million students.
Yeah, that's a lot
of students and educators.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We have a great product.
Yeah. And so when you're looking at using Amazon Personalize and Discovery Ed, what is it that you have found to be helping our educators and students across the world, I'm assuming, with making these personalizations and recommendations for them?
So when we first started out with Personalize, we were focused specifically on teachers, right? And DE's secret sauce, I probably shouldn't say this live, but our secret sauce is our it's our awesome team of educators, right? We have a great team of educators that that bring content into product and build products around that content. Historically, that's how we've produced content and shown content to teachers. And we still do, and it's our bread and butter, like I said. But what Personalize does, it adds an extra layer, if you will. It provides an opportunity for teachers to explore content that they might otherwise not find on the product by saying, hey, you might be interested in this, much like we were talking about, other recommendations.
It sounds almost like a just for you type page that you built out.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you talk more about that just for you page and how it helps your learners and educators?
Yeah, sure. So our Just For You page essentially is a landing page for probably more for the workflows where teachers might be coming in where they might not be looking for some sort of a specific resource, right? So they come in, and we have basically curated rows as well as our recommended row, kind of side by side. Like I said, sort of two different value propositions.
I just imagine, when I was in school many moons ago, going into the library, and it's like, what do I want to look at? But now it's almost like you're putting the shelf of stuff that I would be interested in right in front of me without needing to go through the Dewey Decimal System of things.
Yeah, I mean, we have
Dewey Decimal.
we have hundreds of thousands of pieces of content, right?
Yeah.
And so, part of our job in engineering is to try and help teachers, especially teachers, try and find that content as fast as possible. You know, they've already got enough stuff on their plate. They don't need to be trying to traverse hundreds of thousands of pieces of content.
Hundreds of thousands of pieces of content. How many educators and how many students? Millions at this point, right? So
yes.
Are there any recipes or features of Personalize that you use to help kind of distill all that down to make it most sense for your Just For You page?
Yeah, I mean, so we are basically using kind of the more generic form because we do have different types of media that you might want to recommend. So a lot of the specific recipes are for video or for sales of products. But for us, we had to sort of restrict it down to the types of things that we thought like teachers would specifically want to see.
Perfect.
That's great. Now, I do know, so I had the pleasure of talking with Scott earlier last week.
Did what?
Yeah.
Okay, that's cheating.
And he said that he had a demo he wanted to show us, and I was like, you know what, Scott, you have a lot of awesome things to talk about, and you have an awesome demo.
Yes.
So we're going to test Scott's multitasking abilities.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
We're going to keep asking you questions while you're doing a demo.
Yeah, please do.
And so what was it that you're going to actually show us today in this demo that you have?
So I think part of the reason that we went towards Personalize was the opportunity to iterate fast. We were sort of in a situation about 2 years ago, about this time of the year, and we had been working on some machine learning problems, and we said, well, what can we do with the work that we've done so far and get something in front of teachers by the time that the school year starts, right? And so what I was hoping to show today was just some of the basic, like, let's get a project up and running that you can kind of test out using essentially the dashboard. I'm a Python developer, so I like to do things in Python.
I thought you were going to say the hard way. No, I'm kidding.
I developed some Pythons too.
Well, so actually,
joke.
last night I was on a different stream. We're going to digress here for a second.
Please.
Being a Python developer, are you a camel case or lowercase developer?
Oh, totally camel. Snake case, underscores.
Okay.
Tabs or spaces?
Spaces.
Nano or Vim?
That's JSON or YAML.
Darko is here somewhere, and he probably heard Vim, and he's going to be running over
He'll be here soon, yeah. All right, let's jump into your demo and show us
bet,
how
man.
you maybe prepare your data and walk us through like the initial approach, right?
Sure. So I have us up on the AWS dashboard, right?
The very first place that you go to.
Yes, and Personalize is an option for me. If not, it's on the search bar.
Yes.
And your first step is basically to create a data set group, right? This is kind of the head of a project, if you will, kind of the root. So I'm just going to just call it something. And as I mentioned before, we sort of use more of a custom. We're not just looking at videos. We're not an e-commerce
Wait,
site.
hold on for a second. I thought you said underscores. That's a dash.
Well,
Okay.
Well,
All right.
Look at the valid characters, Aaron.
The data set group name
underscore.
must have 1 through 63 characters with no spaces. Valid characters are, it says, and there's an underscore.
Yeah.
You can
underscore.
Yeah.
Underscore.
That checks out.
Yeah.
Underscore is a valid option in this case, but strangely enough, it's not always.
Okay,
And
all right.
like with on the AWS dashboard, and so just force a habit. I'm always doing dashes.
No, all
it
good.
makes things confusing.
All
right?
good.
But
You set your classes to underscore. Got it.
So basically, as it comes to Personalize, there's 3 different data sets, right? You have your users, your items, the things that you want to recommend, and interaction data. And interaction data represents essentially your historical data of this user interacting with this item at this time and having some sort of interaction with them, right? So I'm just going to use one example as the interactions.
Okay.
Basically, I can. I'm just going to give it a random name. Oh man, see, that's what happens.
Yeah. The semicolon. Didn't like it.
And right up front, you have to define the schema, which are basically how your data is organized. So in this particular case, you have a user, an item, what happened, and a timestamp, right? And so I'm going to go with it. And then as part of Personalize, your data has to be in S3 already, right? In some sort of CSV format.
And probably in the same region, so North Virginia in this case.
Well, S3 buckets don't have regions associated with them, but so strange, interesting facts. But you can actually have your buckets in any region.
Oh, okay.
I think buckets might actually be, you see on the upper right-hand corner, global.
Got it.
So if we look at this data, it would be kind of exactly as described here. It's just users, items, And an event type, in this case, I just have numbers.
That's
it's
all based
75
on
different events,
the
right?
schema that you've created within Personalize is matching the same schema that your data set contains.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And, for us, like event type might be various interactions that we care about with the teacher. Perhaps they assigned it to their class, or perhaps they shared it. And so these are various interactions, right?
And it looks like these, the data types or the event types are one hot encoded.
I'm sorry?
They're probably one hot encoded. So looking at the event type, you see 1, 3, 4, 3. I don't know what that means, but you probably have some system mapped.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay.
Exactly. Okay, so I'm just going to pop that in here to the bucket that we're doing, and I'm going to give this another name.
No semicolons this time.
No semicolons. Also a service role. That's always going to be an adventure, trying to figure out which permissions you need for what thing, and then you're going. You're interacting. You're adding that interaction data, and in a few minutes that should be done. I'm just going to skip ahead to one that I had already.
It's like a baking show. Where
yeah.
This is how you do it.
It
Now
has
the
risen.
cake's done.
Yeah. Right. Now the pie's in the oven. Let's get the next pie out of the next oven.
Right. So you can see this stuff's in there, and the next step is to create a solution.
Okay.
When you create a solution, you're essentially training a machine learning model, right?
Got it.
And so item recommendation, I'm just going to give my solution a name that's not spelled right. And you choose a recipe. We talked about recipes earlier.
Yeah, and features, yeah.
You have the option here. You could bring back like similar items for a user, or you could give, for a given user, you could say, here's a bunch of items, tell me the order in which I should show them. I'm going to choose the AWS user personalization, which is actually, choosing items for a given user.
Got it.
Press next. You'll see my data, specified in there, also for the items in the data set. Here's where you have a bunch of parameters where you can kind of specify specific things that you want to do in the model. You could do different things. For example, this user history length, maybe you want to cut out like the top 5 and bottom 5% of users who are the most and least active, for example, so because maybe you feel like that's not, an active representation of things.
Right now you're looking at like maybe a P99, but you might want to go like a P90, for example.
Sure. Create solution, and we're kicking. Now this step will take several hours because you're training a model. I mean, it could actually take shorter depending on the amount of time. But again, I have one squared away that already has that's set up. And so if you can see, you see the solution is built up already, and you have two solution versions because I retrained the model. Every time you retrain the same model, you get a new solution version. And when you get the solution version, one of the neat things you have is you have some of these metrics, right? You see these solution version metrics, and this is basically doing some of the data science for you. It's basically creating a training set and a testing set of data. So it trains the model with the training set, and then it's testing it out, right? So for example, it trains the model with the training set, and then the testing set, it tests stuff out as in like this normalized NDCG, as they call it, which is taking a look at, if you gave somebody 10 recommendations, how many are going to be there, how many of the ones that are in the data, in the training data, are going to be in those 10 recommendations.
Got it.
Coverage is how many of my recommendations are being recommended throughout the course of the training data. So you can see these numbers are exceptionally low. I'm using some fake data, and it's a pretty small set. Obviously, the more data you have, the better your model is going to be. And a lot of the hard work involved in this is to try out different combinations and try and do the guesswork as to what's going on. And also, you need to kind of recognize that your existing interactions are a function of what you're currently already showing your users, right? And so if, for example, your current setup is not showing users a lot of different diverse content, then basically you're not going to have interactions for those contents. And right, so really the best way to actually test your model is to get it out there in front of users and see what they're doing.
Can you train the model and make it faster and faster? Here I see the training time took 1 hour and 0.001 minutes.
Well, so that is completely a function of how much data you have,
Okay.
right? And it doesn't actually, so sometimes you see like 40 hours or something. It's not actually 40 hours. It's like machine 40 hours. So you have multiple machines up and running. It's all happening behind the scenes, which is one of the cool things.
So the hours might like translate to the cost for like the running amount of time for like pricing perspective, maybe.
Well, yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's going to be one thing. That's going to be one thing for pricing for sure. The other is the last piece, which is sort of your active endpoint that sort of ends up in product. Basically, you have an endpoint. It's called a campaign. You create a campaign. You have an ARN like you do have for a lot of things. I pop in like a user ID. I can filter it, like this one's already interacted. Like I can filter out stuff. If this user's already seen content, I could automatically filter out. And I can also send in some context about the user that might not be in the model. For example, this model has the user's location, but if this is a new user that's not in the model yet, this is some like information for some like cold start cases where maybe the model doesn't know the user or doesn't know an item per se.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what if you had to retrain your model? How do you go about doing that?
Right. Okay. So I showed you the dashboard.
Right.
But one interesting, basically the way that we've done it is we've done it more using AWS step functions, right? And with step functions, you have the ability to kind of create, what kind of looks like a state machine and goes through and actually, you can see the little lambdas and decisions, and you're going through and it's doing everything we just did, but it's doing it automatically, running on a cron job, basically running on a time.
So I'm a huge believer in, I haven't failed. I've just found 10,000 ways to do something incorrectly. Were there any?
Not even different, just incorrectly.
Were there any learnings that you had when going along through, like learning how to retrain a model? Because I mean, you're showing me this, and it looks amazing. But what were some of like the key learnings that you had when you're going through this voyage?
Yeah, I mean, I think our big learnings were really on the outside of Personalize in a lot of ways. It's like, how do you get to this point where you have the data in? And then, in the end, like now you have this live endpoint. How do you start to bring it into products? Which was a great selling point for us for Personalize because, it sort of took care of the machine learning part. And so, as our machine learning, this was about 2 years ago that we first started to wade into the waters with Personalize. And as our machine learning, work has grown, we sort of had the opportunity to kind of learn like everything that goes into the model and everything that's coming out of the model. And then when we went into things with building our own model, we already had that stuff kind of more understood.
And you talked about working with the Personalized team for the past 2 years. We don't have 2 years. We have about 2 minutes. So how was your experience working along with the creation team? And also, what kind of engagement did you see or lift in the student-teacher engagement?
Yeah, so during our A/B testing, we saw over 200% increase in click rate, comparing the two rows that we had, the row that we had existing and the new row. And our work with the solution architects and the solutions teams were great. They definitely kept us on task. They were sort of part of the team, but without like they made us do all the work. But they kept us going and kind of helped aim us to where we were going and kept us up with the right training we needed. As we hit like specific problems.
Wow.
That is awesome.
So I'm actually just astonished. You said 200%. I can't let that go. Over a 200% click rate. I keep thinking back to like some other metrics I've seen on other platforms where it's like maybe you get a 2.4% click rate, but you're saying over 200% click rate increase, right? So you're getting the right content in front of the right people.
Yes. I mean, I think at some level, yeah. I'll say yes.
and it's all from the power.
Keep it short.
And it's all from the power of Amazon Personalize, using these machine learning models that you've created, and then also reducing your training time because you're using the right amount of data sets and the right amount of data sources. That's amazing.
That is. I know that I was always overwhelmed with content of what to look at and what to learn when I was growing up.
I loved your reference to the Dewey Decimal System. I'm still thinking about it. The card catalog.
No, this is really cool, especially for our learners and educators. And this has been awesome.
Yes.
And we appreciate your time.
We do.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Where can people go to learn more about Discovery Ed?
Google us.
DiscoveryEd.com.
Is it DiscoveryEd.com?
It's DiscoveryEducation.com.
DiscoveryEducation.com. Scott, thank you so much.